we'll just go straight in with a look at his first feature film, I suppose you could call it, with A Fistful of Fingers. Drew, would you like to take us away in that one?
Well, it's his first film and it's feature length, so I'm not sure how else you would describe it, Scott. Yeah. Okay. As Scott said, Edgar Wright's directing career began way back in 1995 with A Fistful of Fingers, a budget of $15,000 and a cast of mates. It is, as the title no doubt has already told you, a spaghetti western spoof, with our erstwhile hero, No Name, replete with poncho, cigar and totally authentic Eastwood accent, setting out to earn the bounty on a killer known as the Squint. On the way, he will meet the Tonto-esque Native American guide known as Running Sore, who will become his companion for the rest of the film. As an aside, because it seemed relevant watching this film, there is nothing inherently wrong with using makeup to make someone appear to be of another ethnicity, for impersonation, parody or disguise. But a whole bunch of pale-skinned people have used blackface and brownface over the years to ridicule, denigrate, and even steal jobs from people of darker hue, to the extent that, however innocent the motivation, it's simply now beyond the pale, pun not intended, for white people to wear darker skin makeup. So it's quite uncomfortable to watch parts of A Fistful of Fingers, though the fact that it is a send-up of Western tropes and, not insignificantly, the paucity of Native American actors available on a tiny budget in Somerset in 1995 leave me feeling that it's at worst pure judgment and not malice. Still, though, there's not much more to the film than that, plot-wise, anyway. By the time of 2004, Shaun of the Dead, Wright would have learned to use jokes to tell the story, but here it's rather a case of having a story just to tell jokes. And they're largely schoolboy jokes at that. I watched this with some trepidation, as you might imagine, given its minuscule budget, almost total obscurity, and the fact it would be another 9 years before Wright returned to big screen direction, and I was wondering, well, is there a good reason for that? But I was hoping to see something from an Edgar Wright origin story. And, well, I got a fair bit of that, I'm pleased to say. I couldn't describe A Fistful of Fingers as good, but it's not exactly bad either. It certainly wears its influences on its sleeves, most notably Monty Python and the Holy Grail, with its fourth wall breaking, deliberate anachronisms and ersatz horses. And also it feels at times like Bugsy Malone the Western. But there's still a lot of inventiveness here, and not all of the humour is juvenile. And actually I do admit to having laughed at the utterly tortured Sooty, Swaheep and Sue joke, though probably because it was so very tortured. On its release, Derek Ellie of Variety wrote, A Fistful of Fingers shows more wit and invention than most of its no-budget Brit saddlemates. As a technical accomplishment, the pick announces a precocious talent in 20-year-old Edgar Wright. And I don't disagree. You can see the beginnings of what Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz would go on to do so well, playing with, and within, the tropes and cliches of a genre, but with an understanding of and fondness for that genre, and some of the trademark visual storytelling and comic editing that are the director's trademarks. That there isn't more of that editing is due to the fact, as Wright has lamented in interviews, there wasn't anything else to cut to. It certainly has a lot more polish than you would expect from a 20-year-old first-time director, particularly in the pre-internet days, and it looks pretty good for $15,000. It's probably only for completionists, and anyone else can safely forget about it, but it's not wholly uninteresting, and does get bonus points for a totally unexpected cameo at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very much so. Yeah, I figured we wouldn't be able to get a hold of this because it's not readily commercially available, but the internet is a strange and wonderful place, and it's easy enough to get a hold of if you know the appropriate search terms, those being A Fistful of Fingers movie. And, yes.
Torrent.
Yes. Not even a torrent, it's streaming on one website or another. And I kind of dipped into it at points and went, not sure about this. But when I actually sat down and watched it all in one go, it's actually reasonably entertaining. It's clearly, obviously, miles below everything we'll go on to talk about. But in terms of it just being a straight up, I thought very Zucker, Abrams, a Naked Gun type influence.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of that in there too, Scott, but yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, I felt there was a lot of that running through it, and taken as that, it's relatively funny. I laughed a fair amount throughout it. We could criticise it for a number of things. The appropriation, as you mentioned already, the fact that there's areas of Spain and Italy that can suitably represent the plains or high desert. Somerset, not so much. So it is a western that takes place pretty much entirely in a forest. But it's inventive enough, it's funny enough, it's got lots of gags that sort of swing between actually quite funny and overtly cringeworthy, which makes for kind of interesting enough viewing. And as a way to spend an hour and 20 minutes, it's not that long, is it? If I recall correctly. It's actually worth a look in. Again, as you say, for completionists only, it is a cut below everything else we'll talk about, and clearly when he went off and between this and did Spaced, clearly learned a lot of tricks of the trade at that point, and it's a very different style you'll see from Spaced onwards as compared to this. But yeah, it's an interesting little curate's egg, and if you are happy with the more readily available right stuff, then it's probably worth taking a quick look at this just out of idle curiosity, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think Spaced is really where he earned his stripes. You can see that. I mean, you can see that the idea behind this is clearly, it's like a bunch of friends coming together, like, let's stuff as much in as we can. Mm-hmm. But for all that, it's considerably more professional looking than you would expect.
Yes.
Given that's the case. And he seems to have made that $15,000 stretch quite far, because that doesn't buy a lot of 16mm film.
Yeah.
I get your Zucker Brothers reference. Like, that none shall pass joke is very Zucker Brothers.
Yeah.
I found that the setting didn't bother me as much as you might have thought. That, yes, clearly it's not much like the southwest of the USA, but
it's not really trying to. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. Yeah.
There were one or 2 points though where it looks enough like some of the kind of mountain passages you might see in films set in that region. Like, just enough that it doesn't look so stupid. And yeah, but again, this what they have in terms of location and money and stuff. That what else they're going to do? But I'm sure I've seen less convincing settings.
Yes, witness any relatively low budget science fiction movie from the 80s to the 90s, which we covered. Yes.
Yeah.
Very few cardboard walls in this. They did actually have like proper buildings to shoot in and things like that. So, yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. You can see the glimmerings of talent there, and like kind of some of the begins the trademarks.
I've seen much worse debut features. So
yes, I've seen much worse things from people who've been working for 40 years. So
yes.